Hello friends, welcome to Knowledge India once again. In this tutorial, we are going to talk about organization level trail in terms of CloudTrail service. We have a detailed playlist where we have got a lot of videos on CloudTrail. I would highly recommend you that you watch those videos and be clear on the CloudTrail part. Now, in this video, we are going to cover a new feature which came in the CloudTrail, which is about creating an organization level trail. Now, as many of you know, earlier we used to create trails in each and every AWS account. Sometimes it used to be a single region trail, sometimes we were also creating multi-region trail. But if you think about a big organization where we have got 50 or 100 accounts, and number of AWS accounts keep getting created and deleted, it becomes really very difficult to go ahead and manage all the trails. For example, even if you try to automate, you need to ensure that at the right time trail is created. Somebody who is like an admin in a particular AWS account should not go ahead and delete the trail, etc. Now, yes, we know that we have SCPs which we can enforce and kind of restrict this thing. But what AWS is doing, as we are going ahead, we are seeing that AWS is trying to actually strengthen these security type of services, and the control is becoming in such a manner that it gets enforced from the top of the organization, and none of the member accounts can actually go ahead and change that thing. So the same thing happens here in the organization trail. What we do is we go to the master account of our organization and we set up a trail, which will be an organization level trail. And the benefit of this thing is once you set this up, your complete organization is covered, which means all the AWS accounts within your organization and all the regions as well are covered. So you do not have to go and do it in each and every region, because in nowadays the number of regions are increasing like anything. Earlier it used to be few in number, but nowadays there are so many AWS regions. So it overall makes the process for you very, very simple. So we will learn two things. The first one is how to set up organization trail, which is not very difficult, but we will set it up and we will send the logs of this trail to a central S3 bucket. As we have discussed many of the times, you should keep all the logs in a completely separate AWS account. It is a very good practice that you create a completely separate or isolated AWS account which is used just for keeping logs, a central log collection account, you can say. That account will be part of your organization, but we'll just ensure that nobody is having access to it, so that they do not go and run any resources. You'll just create S3 buckets and all the logs are being shipped to that particular account. Now we will set that up. The second part which we'll learn in this video is, in many of the organizations, once these logs are generated, you would want the ingestion of these logs to happen via some SIEM tool. SIEM tool, there are many SIEM tools like Dell RSA, IBM QRadar, there is something from Fortinet. So there are many SIEM tools. What these tools do is they continuously keep ingesting the logs, and then they try to correlate events, and if there is something malicious, they try to alert you. So for these tools to ingest the logs from your S3 bucket, how would you do things? There is certain aspect which you need to understand in terms of the permissions part, which is not quite obvious, and many of the times people do not get into that detail. So we'll try to cover that part as well, so that you are clear that how do you go ahead and set it up in your organization and also make it work with a SIEM tool, right? That's what we want to cover in this video. Now, if you actually see, uh, this is the simple explanation, right? Let's say on the left hand side you have got an AWS organization where there are n number of AWS accounts. There is a master account, of course. What we'll do is we'll go ahead and create just one trail which needs to be created in the master account. This is somewhat different compared to guard duty. We'll be covering guard duty in another video on the channel. But in case of guard duty, you can make a particular AWS account as the administrator for that particular service. You can actually delegate that type of permission. But in case of CloudTrail, they have not done anything of that sort. So always the master account of the organization only would be able to create the organization trail. So the organization trail is created, and then you set up an S3 bucket where you say all the logs should be shipped to that S3 bucket. So this is the simple flow. What we'll do next is we'll go ahead and actually try to set it up, and I'll explain you the whole thing. Okay, so let's go and do that part. All right, so let me just give you a quick intro here. We have got a couple of AWS accounts. All of these accounts are part of one organization. Now, what we are going to do here is we will be setting up the organization trail in the master account, of course, and there is a logging account as well where we are going to land all the logs. So the S3 bucket, which should contain the logs, that would be, that S3 bucket would be put in this particular AWS account. So that's how we are going to do. So if you see, I have logged into the master account and we are here in the Northern Virginia region. Uh, Here, if you look at the CloudTrail service, if I go and click on trails, there are no trails currently, right? So there is nothing created. We'll go ahead and create one, but it would be a wise thing to do that we should first go and set up the S3 bucket correctly, because the S3 bucket needs to be created and certain permissions need to be set up. So we should go ahead and do that first, and after that it would be good that we come back and set up this trail. So that's how we'll do it. I'll close this. I'll go back here to this particular page. This is my SSO page, AWS SSO page, and I use this because it makes the whole login process very easy. And if you want, you can also do it. You can set up SSO against either Azure Active Directory, or if you don't want to do that, you can just set it up within within AWS. You can create the users as part of SSO itself and give the access to those users to multiple AWS accounts, right? That is possible. So let us go into the logging account now. And we will go ahead and create a bucket, simple, and set up some permission on that bucket. The good thing about this organization trail is that you will be creating this trail in the master account, and it would be visible in all the accounts in all the regions, right? In all the member accounts in all the regions. Users in those accounts would be able to see this trail, but they cannot delete or change anything in this trail. So that way, in your enterprise, the standards which you want to enforce, you can enforce it from a central place, or from a central location, and you can control it. And just anybody who is part of just one account cannot change things. That's a really good stuff. So let's do one thing. We'll say create bucket. So I've given a name for this bucket. I'm going to keep it in the Northern Virginia, and other things we can just keep as default for now. Yep. And we'll just say create bucket. Once the bucket is created, we need to get inside this bucket and we need to set up some bucket policy. So we'll go here and we need to put the bucket policy. Here is some example from where we can go ahead and pick up and actually create the bucket policy. Now, if we actually take this, I'll just quickly explain you. This first part is only giving the access to basically get bucket ACL, so that you can give. It is just about getting the ACL details of the bucket. So that should not be a problem, and we'll put our bucket name here. And after that, there are two sections. This is one, and this is the second statement. Actually, in our case, we will only require this second one. We don't require this middle statement. This statement would be used if you see it says s3 dot put object, s3 colon put object, and in the resource section, the bucket name slash AWS logs slash account number. This is the structure given. You will use this permission type when you are doing an individual account level trail. At that time, you will use this type of model. But when you actually set up organization trail, the way AWS writes the logs, that changes a bit. If you see, it becomes bucket name slash AWS logs slash organization ID. So whatever is your organization ID, it would be typically O hyphen something. That organization ID would come, then a slash, and after that, your account number would appear. So what we'll do is we will just copy this bucket policy from here. Let's go to this place and paste this. And what we'll do, we'll just remove this middle one from here, delete, and we need to put the name of the bucket here. So let me just copy this name of the bucket and we'll put it here. This is one change which we need to do. And the other change is, as you might have guessed, we need to put the organization ID, right? So how do we get the organization ID? Let us see if we can get it from here. So what I need to do is I need to go to the master account and get the organization ID. So let's do one thing, guys. We will try to save this. This should work because here just we need to put the correct thing. Let's try saving this. Okay, so it got saved. There is no error as such in the policy. Let's go to the master account. Okay, all we need to do is quickly go to organization and pick the organization ID. That's it. So go here, go to settings probably, and here is our organization ID. I'll just paste it here and leave it there, and I can close this. Again, I can get inside the logging account. This is just so easy because of the SSO thing. All right, we are here in the logging account now, and we'll go to our bucket and we'll just put the correct org ID there. So we'll go to bucket policy and let us just copy this and we'll put it here. Okay, say save. That's it, good. And what we can do is let us just pick this name of the bucket here, or we can take the full ARN for that matter of this bucket, because this would be required, when we are setting up the trail. So let's just close this. Go here, go to the master account once again. And now we are gonna set up the organization trail. Bucket policy is all set. We'll set up the organization trail now. So we are there in the Northern Virginia region. Go to CloudTrail. This is going to be super quick. And in the CloudTrail, say create a trail. At this time, you can give some name for this, whatever you want. So this seems to be the quick trail create option. What I'll do is I'll go to trails and I'll say create trail from here. And then you get this detailed one. I suggest you use this particular UI. Okay, so we'll give it a name. We'll call it my org trail. And you see enable for all accounts in my organization. Yes, I'll do this. We want to use an existing S3 bucket, so we need to put the name of the bucket. Let us just pick the name from here. Okay, so that's the name. Do you want to give some prefix? If you give some prefix, you see after the bucket name, that prefix will also come. For example, if I say folder 1, so what happens after the bucket name? Folder 1 will get created. Inside that, the whole AWS logs and then organization ID folder will get created. But we do not want this. I'll remove. So this is the structure which would be used. Okay. All right. Now, whenever you are creating a trail, by default, it is encrypted. Using S3 server-side encryption. If you want to use a particular KMS key, then you can enable this thing as well. So if I just disable this, it does not mean that it is going to be non-encrypted. It is going to be encrypted only, but it will use the keys which are S3 managed, you can say, or which are AWS managed for S3 service. Log file validation, yes, will enable this. I've shown some of these things already in the previous video, so we'll just go. Do we want to push this to CloudWatch logs? We are not doing that now. We can do that in some other video. If you want, just apply some tags and say next. Now, what type of events do you want to capture? Management events. This is for sure. What are management events? Let's say EC2 run instances, EC2 terminate instances, S3 create bucket. All of these are management events. Data events and insight events also are there. Data events are, for example, from an S3 bucket, you are trying to do a put object or a get object. Those are data events. And of course, insight events also you can enable if you want to detect unusual behavior. So that's your choice, what all you want to select. Um, then read write both the things. We'll say next, and we'll just say create trail. So let's see. Oh, it says S3 bucket policy might not have adequate permissions for CloudTrail to access it. So looks like something is not right with our S3 bucket, and we should go ahead and correct it. Let us go ahead and check that part. All right, guys, so I looked at this particular bucket policy. We have done everything correct. In fact, if you see, even the folders got created, you know, but it is not able to write here something. Now, I do not see any error in the bucket policy at this point. What what we can do is, if we look at this particular article, here it says that this particular policy allows for the organization trail. It says it also allows logging for this account in the event that the trail is changed from an organization trail to a trail for that account only. So, well, though it does not make a lot of sense, but I'm just gonna try and put this part as well there in the policy. All right, what I need to do is put the here, and we need to put account number of the master account. Right, so this is saved. Let us come back here and we'll try to say create trail once again.
This channel teaches you AWS and Azure in really easy and practical manner. There are a lot of demonstration videos already on the channel. As you can see, a lot of professionals got benefited from our videos and you can read about them here. So if you are new, please go ahead and subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon.
And see, it got created. Now I do not see a logic in this really, but maybe that's how they have implemented it. So you need to, when you are creating this, please make sure that you also add the permission for the master account. You should add a separate statement as well. Please do that. Now it got created, and if we go here, we can go to overview, and if we go to AWS logs, this is the uh, this is the master account, of course. Inside this, if I go to CloudTrail, currently we do not see anything, but very soon the files should start appearing here. Okay, so let us do one thing. We'll go to this particular account and we'll just try to do few activities, maybe just create an S3 bucket or do things like that, and it will start generating. I'll just say create. Okay, so this bucket got created, and surely within few minutes we'll see some logs there. Okay, now once the logs appear, I'll be able to explain you the other part which we wanted to discuss, which is around the permissions of of those log files and how do we deal with that if we want to access those files from a SIEM tool which is probably deployed in some other account, right? So what I'm trying to explain you here is, let's say we have got so many different accounts. We have got a master account, we have got a logging account. As per the principle, we know that in the log collection account or in the logging account, you will only keep the logs. You are not gonna install any other tools there, right? So if you have a SIEM tool, you're not gonna put it there. You will probably put it either in your security team's account, or you might go ahead and put it in your central tooling account. Those are the accounts where you are going to put your SIEM tool on an EC2 instance, probably, right? So, uh, just for an example, let's say if you put your SIEM tool in the security account. Now, the EC2 instance in the security account needs to access the logs from an S3 bucket in your logging account. And that's where the problem comes. So let us wait for a few minutes and let some log files, let us see some log files should get generated, and after that we'll explain you more. Uh, while we are waiting for that, I want to show you one more thing here. In the permissions, if at the bucket policy, if you see, there is this one ACL mentioned here. So because of this, what is happening, whenever CloudTrail service is writing these log files into this particular bucket, it is also giving permission to this account on these objects. So let's say one log file got written by the CloudTrail service in the logging account. Along, along with this operation, when it writes the object, it also gives the permission to this logging account, the account in which I'm currently logged in. You can see this is the central logging account. So it gives permission to this logging account that, okay, now you have permission on this object. What does that mean really? It means that you can actually further give permission to any identity within your account. So for example, if I create a user called Tom within logging account, so we can give permission that Tom can read these log files. Okay, so that would become possible only because this particular thing is put. Otherwise, though the bucket is there in the logging account, the objects which are being put by the CloudTrail service. So CloudTrail service is actually the owner of those objects. So wait for a few minutes and you will be able to see that thing. This is quite interesting stuff, and if you are really keen about getting into details, you need to learn these things. All right, guys, so let us go ahead and check for logs. So in the CloudTrail, if we go, we see a folder got created, US East 1 within this particular account, US East 1, and 2020, 8th of August, 28 is the date. And you can see a couple of log files are available here now. Let me select any log file here, and you can see its properties are appearing on the right hand side. Now, if you look at these properties, there is an important thing in the permissions section, owner. You can see who is the owner. Owner is AWS underscore CloudTrail underscore US East 1. So though this object is currently stored in a bucket which is there in the logging account, actually the logging account is not the owner of this object. This is something with S3 which you need to understand. It is possible that, suppose I have an account 1. In the account 1, I create a bucket and I give you permission. You are part of account 2 and you write an object into my bucket. That does not mean that I would become the owner of that object. Though I am the bucket owner, but that particular object would still be owned by you. Okay, that part you need to understand. Now, if you see here, here the bucket is owned by my logging account, but the objects within that bucket are still owned by AWS CloudTrail US East 1. So that's an important bit to understand. Now, what is the problem because of that? The problem because of that is that if we want to actually further share these objects to other accounts, let's say I was explaining you some time back, my bucket is placed in logging account, right? And what I want to do, I want to create an EC2 instance. Let's say this is what I'm trying to tell you here. So our bucket is there in the logging account, and what we'll do, our SIEM tool is put in the security account. So normally what do we do? Uh, in the bucket here, the bucket which is there in the logging account will put a bucket policy via which we can share the objects across the account, right? And then any EC2 instance or any user in the security account would be able to access the object, right? That's how normally it works. But it won't work in this case. Why? Because because of the fact that in this case, if you see, the objects are not owned by this particular account, and hence this account cannot further share this object outside of its own account. It can do this thing surely, that it can create an IAM user within the same account or a role within that account, and those role or IAM role or IAM user can access the objects. But this logging account cannot share it with any other outside account. That is not possible. So how do we solve that part is what we are going to see next. So what I'll do is this. As you know, here the logs are continuously coming. You can see there are a couple of log files now. If I want to share these files with another account, uh, a simple approach which I would take is, let me go back here. I will actually create a new bucket altogether. I'm gonna call this bucket, so for the security team, I'm creating this, and basically the purpose of this bucket is that SIEM tool is gonna access from here. So I'll just say create. After saying create, what I'm gonna do is I will set up a replication so that all the files from this log CloudTrail bucket will be copied to this particular bucket. And while we'll set that up, we will switch the ownership of the objects. Let me show you how to do that. So click on this particular bucket, go to management, go to replication, and here say add rule, right? So it says versioning is not enabled, so no problem, we can enable versioning. Now we want to apply this rule to the whole bucket, so I'll just say entire bucket. Whether you want to replicate objects which are there with AWS KMS as well. In our case, it is just server-side encrypted, so I'm not checking this. Say next, and then you need to choose the destination bucket. So your destination bucket in this case is going to be this one. Bucket doesn't have versioning enabled. Do that. Change the storage class for the replicated objects. If you want to change it, here it is standard storage class. You want to change it to something else, let's say standard IA or one zone, you can try and do that. That's not, I mean, if you want, you can do that. I'm not doing it at this point. If you want, you just click here and then go ahead and select it. This is the important bit, object ownership. So I'll say change object ownership to destination bucket owner. Type account ID of the destination bucket. So it just does not pick up from here. I mean, I don't know why it doesn't pick. It should be able to just pick up the account owner from this thing, but it doesn't pick up. It asks you to put the account number. So what we can do is, let me just quickly get that. So we'll just say next. You need to select an IAM role, or if it is not there already, you can just say create new role. And give some names, and we'll just say enabled, preview this, say save. So once this is done, what would happen, the files which are there in the first bucket, which is the CloudTrail bucket, this will get copied to this particular bucket. So let's go and click here, and you can see already it has started coming here. So you can see now it is actually coming for two different accounts, right? Let me show you this thing. I'm there in the logging account. If I go to the CloudTrail service here, you will see that the trail would be available. I just want to show you that part quickly. So we can go to trails and you should see the trail available here. You can see my org trail. This is the organization level. So if I try to select this and delete and all, I cannot do that. You know, it's not possible for me to delete. Good. So just coming back to this one, you can see here. Let me go to any one of the account here. Let me go to US East 1, 2028, go here, and I'll select any one particular object or file. If I go scroll down and I go to the owner, you can see here the owner has changed. Here the owner is ki.log acc. If you see, this is nothing but the let me show you ki.log accc. This is nothing but the ID which I used to actually create this particular account, right? So you can see the owner got updated. So what is the benefit of this? Now after the objects are owned by this particular, by this particular account, then we can very easily go back to just this place, go to permissions, go to bucket policy, and here I will just put a simple bucket policy with which I can share the files to the security account. I'm not going to show that. We already have other bucket policy videos. You can go and watch that, but I can put it and it will work. I will actually request you to go ahead and try it in your account. But if you try to share in the same manner the files which are there in the other bucket, which is this one, the file, if you go ahead and put a bucket policy here, that won't work. It won't be, you won't be able to share the objects from this bucket to the security account. That won't be possible because the objects are not owned by this particular account. That's the key thing. So I wanted to explain you that though in many of the AWS documentation, it is very clearly written that as part of the landing zone design, you should have logging account separate and you should have security tooling separate, your central tooling or shared services account separate. All of these things are written, but I did not find this particular aspect very properly explained in the document. Maybe it is there somewhere. If you find the link, please put it in the comment section below and I would like to read that. But otherwise, this is what I wanted to show you. So organization trail makes the complete process for you very simple, and in a very easy manner you can go ahead and just set up the whole thing in one click. The benefit is you set up the organization trail, and let's say more number of accounts get created, in the upcoming months. You need not worry about setting up trail in those new accounts. It just happens automatically in those accounts in all the regions. So that's a really good and powerful feature. If you have not set up CloudTrail yet in your accounts, guys, maybe go ahead and do this. And one important bit I'll tell you, if in your organization you already have per account level trails created, and after that you are going ahead and creating this organization trail, you will unnecessarily incur double cost, right? So create the organization trail, and after that maybe give 1 day, just verify that logs are coming properly in the S3 bucket. After that, go to those individual accounts and delete those trails which you had created at the account level, because you have created at the organization level, you don't need those trails anymore. Okay, so with that, I will go ahead and wrap up this video. I hope you understood what we explained. I will also put some of the useful links in the description section. If you are interested, I would suggest please go and read that, and please do hands-on whatever we have shown here. With that, we will close the session. Please continue to watch our videos, and you can go and check our playlist. If you want to join our channel, you can press on the join button and get benefited as well. Well, if you want to support, you can share this video with some of your friends. More videos coming soon, guys. Keep watching. Take care. Bye bye.